Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help ignite that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an opportunity for experienced business coaches to become licensed circle directors and earn significant recurring revenues. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of accountability, challenge, and support. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. I'm really excited about our show today. I get to hang out with Paul Thompson, who's the founder and CEO of Patriot Elite Group in Edgewood, Kentucky. Paul, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, no, this will be a lot of fun. You've had an amazing career, and over that time, I have no doubt that you have come across some amazing leaders, and maybe some who weren't maybe that amazing. If you dialed it down, what were one or two traits that you think separate the really excellent leaders from the average or even below average leaders?
Oh, that's a great question. Leadership to me is kind of foundational in who I am. I was thrust into leadership at the age of 17 when I joined the military, and the third day of basic training, I was thrust in as a squad leader, and so I immediately got to see what it's like to be a leader. But at the same time, I got to experience what leadership comes to us in the form of the drill sergeant. And many people in the military think that the drill sergeant was their best leader they ever had. I would argue that they're there to do a mission, not necessarily teach you to be the best kind of leader you could be. As my career progressed through the military, I've ran into, of course, people of all walks of life, from banking industries to manufacturing and so on. And leadership characteristics vary across all levels. One example of a poor leader would have to have been a time in the military where I had a squad leader above me of whom was newly promoted. And in turn, in doing so, he didn't have the ability to really understand how to convey the message for us to execute what needed to be done. So he was very unclear in his approach to us, which in turn led us to not really understand what we were supposed to accomplish. So we were questioning the objective, questioning the mission, questioning the task. And so I learned from that in that a good leader needs to effectively communicate what needs to be accomplished, giving us the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And in doing so, then you really you understand what your point, your purpose is in doing and accomplishing that mission or that job or that task. In the civilian realm, I've met a wonderful guy. I'll drop a name for him. His name's David Hall, one of the best leaders I've ever met. And the reason I say that is that he comes to it from a point of empathy, that he takes time to understand his people before he starts to assign and give out tasks and get people to execute. He wants to understand our capabilities, our traits, our characteristics, what motivates us, what gets us to want to accomplish something. And then he tries to find a way to make you feel as though your role is ultimately important, and without you, the company itself won't succeed. So to me, I took that to heart. That's a perfect characteristic of a great leader, taking time to understand the people on his team and leveraging their abilities to maximize their output. It creates an instant amount of ownership for the team, and also creates team success because our leader really takes time to understand us. So yeah, it's a great question.
Wow, I love that answer. I love the examples that you were able to provide too. I want to start with that clarity component that you first referenced, right? It's I would assume, having never served in the military. By the way, thank you for your service.
Appreciate
Having
that.
never served in the military, it would be my expectation that clarity is of the utmost importance in a mission and in leading people. I'm curious, in the military, is there leadership training for the squad leaders and all that kind of, all the different levels that go through that? And what does that training look like, assuming there is, what does that training look like to help to make sure that the clarity component exists?
Sure. So within the military, they typically work, at least in the Army, I can't speak for the other branches, of course. They work on a crawl, walk, run methodology. And then they understand that people learn in three methods. You either see it, you hear it, or you do it. And in the military, they try to focus on allowing you to have all three. You're going to hear it from the instruction that they're going to give. You're going to see it in action by demonstration. And then they're going to provide to you the opportunity to put those tasks or things into action yourself through usually peer-to-peer engagement to apply what you're learning. So with that level of training, you gain the understanding that you're seeing it, you're hearing it, you're doing it, and you're applying it in whatever task that may be. So what it's driving to do is that often in the realms of the military, the chaos of the military, the orders that you receive are not clear. But you still have to execute even on the minimal information you're given. So as a leader, we have to take this minimal amount of information, understand our team well enough to assign tasks to them that they are clearly understood, even in the absence of clear instruction from what we receive as the leaders. It's paramount that your team, regardless of the information you receive as a leader, that your team has clear instructions because they don't necessarily always understand that there may be missing information. As a leader, we have to ensure that we fill those gaps and provide clear instructions so that they can execute whatever that may be. And yeah, the military does do that really well in the realms of training. It starts at the lowest levels, and there's two methodologies in the military. You have bottom-up leadership coming from the enlisted ranks, and you have top-down leadership coming from the officer ranks. I was fortunate to be in the realms of both. I came up enlisted, so I went through the leadership trainings there, development courses in through the sergeant ranks and so forth. But then I became a warrant officer, where they essentially broke me back down and taught me how to be that upper level leader. So think of it going from being a middle manager in corporate America to being an executive. It's kind of the difference in the level of leadership that you're dealing with. So almost blue collar to white collar transition in a sense.
Hmm.
And with that, there's two different methods you do things. So the blue collar or the enlisted methodology typically involves planning around execution of certain small tasks, whereas the leadership at the upper levels is focusing on the vision, the mission, and the execution phases and the planning of what has to happen there, and then dissemination of orders down to the enlisted ranks so they can go execute to those vision and mission. So you get the chance to see both sides of the spectrum, at least from my rank and how I came from. But yeah, the clarity of instruction oftentimes isn't clear.
Hmm.
And we as leaders have to be able to fill in the gaps so that our team has clear instructions to execute too.
Yeah, I like that, and yeah, obviously that happens in all leadership, right? Like lack of clarity. And my assumption is, at least how I think I approach that when I don't have all the information, you have to have something to lean back on. And that's typically the mission or the vision of your organization, so that at a minimum, you can take the information that you have and start to align it towards your overriding mission and vision. And that starts to help fill in the gaps.
Absolutely. Yeah, with mission and vision, essentially, you're going to create a series of tasks. Once we have the series of tasks, it's a matter of assigning and executing to those tasks to accomplish that vision or mission. As leaders, though, we have to do foundationally provide purpose, motivation, and direction to our team. And in turn, in doing so, if we can provide those three core fundamentals, then the team has enough information to go and execute and complete those tasks. Then it's just a matter of a leadership following up to ensure the tasks are completed to standard, meaning that they've met the goal or met the achievement of what they were supposed to do. So leadership doesn't just stop at assigning everything out. We have to have the ability to go in and also follow up and ensure that things are being done, asking open-ended questions, ensuring the team really knows that what they're doing, they're being watched and followed, and ensure that that mission or task gets accomplished to the best possible ability. At the end of the day, especially in the business world, everyone in the company is responsible to help that company make money. And as leaders, if we can instill in our team a level of ownership that they realize that that little piece that they're doing makes a big difference, then everyone on the team will do their best to try to accomplish that task.
Yeah, I love that. In my world, Quaid is the organization that I founded a few years ago, 4 years ago, and Quaid stands for four E's: quad plus E, four E's, and my four E's align exactly with that. So it's engagement. So you're talking to people, and lead into your great leader example, that empathy, right? Of learning who people are, what their skill set is, that type of thing. The second E is education. So now we need to educate them on not only the mission and vision of the organization, but education on why we're doing things, how we do things, what their role is in doing things, right? Everything that you just said. And then the 30 is empowerment. So now we know who you are, we know you know how to go about things. Now it's on you to go do it, right? And then the fourth one is execution, which is carrying out all those other three E's with the addition of accountability, which is exactly what you just said of, yep, it doesn't end here. I can assign you, I can train you, and I can let you go, but that's not where it ends. It comes back to that accountability piece to make sure that I'm doing a good job as a leader, you're doing a good job as a teammate, and all that kind of stuff. So I love what how you've laid that out. Very clear, very tactical. I love it. Nice work.
Thank you. Yeah, it in the realms of getting the vision and mission completed, it's primarily around task organizing, prioritizing, assigning, and executing. So you have to have a method when it comes to understanding what the big scope is to break it down in smaller pieces, because your teams often won't understand the overall mission of what you're trying to accomplish. However, what they do know is they know their individual role, they know their individual responsibilities. What they need to understand is how that's important to fulfilling their piece of the mission and the vision. And again, task organize, prioritize, assign, and execute works flawlessly.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Um, go back to the gentleman. Was it David Hall? Is that
David Hall.
David Hall? Go back to David's example, and share more about that experience, that how he made you feel when he got to know you and learn your strengths and your abilities and your weaknesses, and where how he really took to you and understood you and put you in a position to be successful. How did that make you feel as a teammate of his?
Absolutely. Uh, to begin with, I would say the first thing he did was he made himself approachable. Oftentimes, we see our leaders as these pie in the sky. We can't talk to them. They're more grandiose than we are. If we take the time to take off the rank, if you will, and make ourselves approachable to our team, it allows the team to be able to communicate a little bit more effectively because they feel like you are able to talk their language. And Dave did that very, very well. And I've kind of taken that to heart too. It's really something that when you as a leader can be willing to take off your rank and put yourself in the position of we're peers, not just a leader or subordinate. It allows the communication flow a little bit easier. What it makes me feel is that when I'm able to approach my leader in a way that I can speak my mind, in a way that I don't feel threatened that I'm going to be reprimanded, regardless if it's something good or bad, I'm more, I have a higher propensity to be able to do that. I want to be able to speak my mind. I want to be able to raise issues. I want the organization to be better if I see something that's a wrong. And if we don't have a leader that's willing to be approachable, it puts a barrier up, and our teammates are not willing to go and have that conversation. Oftentimes leaders don't see, they see the bigger scene. They don't necessarily see the details that are going on in daily work that our subordinates are dealing with, the challenges that they deal every day. If they have the open door policy, we hear it often.
Hmm.
People are afraid to use it most times because the leader doesn't make themselves approachable. I think that's really, really key. And that to me is what allows you to open up the lines of communication. Once Dave really took time to understand me, even asking personal questions, what my family life was like, what I did for fun, it shows that there's a level of empathy that's needed. The military does a poor job when it comes to training empathy. You're there about focusing on mission and execution. Your feelings really honestly don't matter. Your emotional state really doesn't matter. So when coming out of the military, that's one of the struggles that we have is how do we transition ourselves to learn this emotional intelligence quotient? For me, it took a lot of self training and self understanding and reading and really getting to know it. That really helped me to become a better leader. I wish the military would take time to focus on getting people to become more empathetic and understanding personal emotional states. Because once you can understand a person's emotional state, you have the ability to train and coach them to become more effective based on what you know they're capable of doing because you know a little bit more about them. So, and to me, that's what a good leader is all about: is taking the time to really know their team, and that's what Dave did for me. To this day, I'm still call him a great friend of mine, and we talk on a regular basis. And it's because we took that time to get to know each other. I don't see him as a boss. I never really did. I saw him as a peer that was in a different position than me, that we had to do work together. And that to me was the greatest relationship you could have with a boss, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, the other thing that does is it helps unite you so that if you have, when you have, oh, I'm trying to think of the word. When you have the ability to do more, you're going to do more, right? Because you are engaged. It is not just about the 9 to 5 role. It is about something bigger than yourself. And when you have that ability to give more, you're going to give more, right? Because of that empathy, because of that engagement, because he sees you as a person, not a subordinate.
Exactly. Yeah, human beings are not machines. If we're treated like machines, we typically won't last long. And then in most organizations too, people don't leave companies, people leave people. And that has to do with the fact that you have a bad management team, or you don't agree with the culture, or something about that organization in the realms of the way they run things is not what you enjoy or what you like. And that's why you would leave an organization. The people that stick around are the ones that enjoy the culture. They like their leadership team. Their vision, mission, and goals are very clear, and leadership is engaging with them and helping them to make their jobs easier, better, safer, faster, cheaper. If we can take time as leaders to really, it's a matter of just taking time to get to know your people, and get to know their process, what they're going through, and then what can you do as a leader to make it better for them. When you do that, your team is going to rise to the occasion. They're going to be willing to do more for you. They're going to take the initiative more often. And honestly, it makes a leader's job easier because your team learns to execute on their own, because they don't have to rely on you to tell them what to do all the time. They learn it, they understand it, they do it. And this two-way street of respect gets formed. And then it's the team starts coming to you with solutions versus you giving them the solutions. And that's the ultimate growth of a team. When you can get to that point, then it makes the leadership's job very, very easily. Our next focus then is finding who in that team is going to be the next leader. And what do we do as the leader to develop them into that next role? I see that is lacking a lot in the civilian industries, in the realms of early leadership development. Military does a great job at it. They see that there's a need for having junior leaders be developed in such a way that as they progress, they're gaining more and more skills in that leadership capability. In the civilian world, we really don't do that. We see an individual that has highly capable in their individual contributor role, and then we say, okay, well, we're going to promote you to a manager because you're capable of doing your role really well. And then once they get into that role, they're excited to be there. Their peers treat them a little differently because they're now
Mhm.
above them in the realms of rank. So it creates a little bit of a conflict. This individual then, as they're starting to grow in this management role, they start to have to manage people and the people functions and dealing with all the people issues. They start to struggle because they haven't had the opportunity to really train and understand, or to be mentored through an emotional condition. For example, a family problem where a husband and a spouse are arguing, and a guy brings it into work in the day, and he's upset about this. Having to deal with those kind of emotional strains as a new manager becomes a challenge because you don't know how to deal with that. So I think that there's an area that really, if businesses could focus on creating a robust junior leadership development program that really helps their junior people, their top tier junior people, have a plan to be able to develop the skills and the training to be able to deal with people, it's going to be wonderful. As as being an instructor in the military, and then also being an adjunct professor at Thomas More University here in Northern Kentucky, I've seen over the past 9 years how the level of people and their people engagement has changed. Gone are the days when you'd pick up the phone and just call your friend. Now everything is done with a text message. Gone are the days when people just hung out outside in their yard. They just don't do that anymore. And so because of that, this new I guess, incoming set of leadership that will be going into the workforce is going to struggle drastically with leadership because they've lived their whole life behind a screen. They haven't had the chance to interact with one another and develop the skills to have abilities to understand and fix social problems. I see that as a huge gap that's coming in the industry. I'd love an opportunity to work with companies on solving those kind of issues and
Yeah.
developing leaders from a junior level. It would be great.
Yeah, well, you just opened up a whole new podcast episode that we're going to have to get back to. Hey, thank you for this. This has been amazing.
Absolutely.
As I said, what we're trying to do is just continue to highlight people like you who have these amazing experiences and insights, and do it in these bite-sized nuggets. So I appreciate you taking time. I want to end with one last question. When you think back to 21-year-old Paul, what's one thing you wish you would have known, he would have known at 21 that you've learned over these years?
That's a great question. I would say that I wish I would have known that the path to success is not a straight line and that you can't do it by yourself. And I say that because what I thought I was going to be doing in life, where I am today, is nowhere near what that was. And it's exciting at the same time as terrifying.
Right.
We don't know where our life is going to go with any sense of intention unless we forcefully make it that way. Oftentimes, I'm a man of faith, and sometimes it's in God's hands. You have to see where's God leading you. At other times, you have to take it into your own account and say, look, I need to change my life. And in my case, that's what I did with the military. I joined the military to get out of the ghettos that I grew up in. I broke the cycle of my family. I'm the first to go to college and first to do these things. So you have to sometimes take your own life into your hands. But this path is never straight. And also you can't do it alone. Like I said, the people that you engage with are important. Everyone has something to offer in some way, shape, or form. We just have to take the time to be willing to listen to them or hear their stories, but then also at times share your own. It's building these relationships that's going to help us to become better leaders, become better people, and serve one another. I mean, ultimately, we're on this earth to help each other in some way, shape, or form. We're only here for a limited time. It's not worth our time to be an evil person and tear things down when we should be building each other up and helping things be greater and better. And to me, that's kind of what's been driving me and why I want to go and do the things I'm doing now in the realms of small business ownership and coaching and mentoring and uh, building small business. This to me is just, it's fun. It's foundational. It's the American dream, if you will,
Yep.
of building something from nothing.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
I love every bit of that. So speaking of that, share with what would an engagement with you look like, number one, and then number two, how do people get a hold of you?
Sure. I'm found on LinkedIn most often, Paul Thompson, MBA. Really easy to find. Usually the first one to pop up. I think I'm the only one with that name on there. And I would do two things. So I have my LLC of Patriot Elite Group, which is a small holding company. But within that, I do Patriot Elite Consulting. I'm a fractional consultant, primarily focusing on operations and operations management. I love working with small businesses that are looking to improve operations, drive out costs, and really drive their value proposition. That's my focus. I really want to make sure that we drive costs out. And I do that because within the operations realm, it's the one area of business that as you drive costs out, it immediately affects the bottom line. And it's not an area like in sales, you got to drive $2, $3, $4 to really affect the bottom line because of all the costs that are absorbed into it. As we drive costs out, it's immediately to the bottom line. So I love doing that. And then I enjoy doing the junior leadership development courses. So for me, it's a matter of finding me on LinkedIn, connect with me there. And then we start a conversation and go that way. Haven't quite built the website yet, but I'm sure I'll get there eventually. We'll go that. In addition, I'm also a member of the Proper Group. The Proper Group is a consortium of consultants. All of us have been directors, C-suite, executive at some level. So essentially, we are a C-suite at your fingertips. So it's a entire grouping of people that can solve any corporate level problem. So even though I may come in from an operational standpoint, I may not be able to solve your immediate problem if you have HR, for example. However, in my collective, I have the ability to pull in an HR person and do exactly that. So it's unlike any other consulting arenas out there. And we do it in a fractional basis, meaning that we embed as a member of the leadership team and help to solve the problems. We're not here to deliver slide decks. That's not us. We actually want to physically get there and get the work done and give you a repeatable and scalable result to the customers.
Love it. Love it. Paul, man, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing so much of your wisdom and insights. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got another topic already built up, so
Sounds good.
we're good to go. All right,
Let's
all
do it.
right. Yeah, yeah. We have done it again. We have identified another amazing leader who's provided some just incredible insights and things to help you along in your leadership journey. Want to remind you that Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has created Launchpad, which provides an opportunity for experienced business coaches to become licensed circle directors and earn significant annual recurring revenues. To find out more, visit quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks for listening.